All right, now we're going to work on how to create an assembly file for all those parts you created for your puzzle cube. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on New again. I can see down here are my assembly files. And so I'm going to use a standard IAM assembly. I'm going to make sure my project is still on puzzle cube, or excuse me, on puzzle cube. And then I'm going to hit create. So what we're going to be doing within an assembly file is placing all of our parts and constraining those parts together. And so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and click place. I'm going to find two of my parts. I'm going to start with my orange part. And I'm going to click open. And when I do that and I zoom out a little bit, I can see that I can move it around. And wherever I click, it's going to place that part in the assembly. And so I just want one of those parts. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit escape on my keyboard. And I have the one part now in my assembly. I can add another part now by clicking place. This time I'm going to add my purple part. And I'm going to click open. And I can place the purple part in there. And I'll hit escape. All right. So what we're going to be doing with an assembly is we're going to be constraining or putting these parts together so that we can show how these parts would be assembled for your project. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I know that in my puzzle, this surface and this surface line up. So I'm going to click on constrain. I have what's called a mate constraint. A mate constraint puts two surfaces together. So when I do the mate constraint, if I mated my two hands together, the palms of them, they would go together like this. They could still move up and down in either direction, but they would be mated together. And so I'm going to click on this surface and this surface, and I'm going to mate those parts together. So I'll click apply. Now, if we look at this, it looks like those parts aren't together. They're kind of moving together. But if I click on the front view of my parts here, we can see those surfaces actually are mated together. All right, so that's what we want. The next thing that I'm going to do is I need to constrain this so it stops moving. So I'm going to use a couple of other constraints. I'm going to click constrain, and I'm going to use a flush constraint. What flush means is it's lining up two surfaces. So if you look at the example here and the icon, it's showing those two surfaces being lined up. All right. And so I have the arrow going up and I want it to line up with that arrow. All right. So now if I click apply, what we've done, again, if I go to the front view, we've lined up the top of these parts. So the tops are lined up. And I can still move it this way and this way. All right. So I need one more constraint. I think I'm going to use a flush constraint again. So I'm going to click right here for flush. And I want this surface to be flush with this outside surface. And I can go ahead and click apply. All right. And so once you have two of your parts put together, you can go ahead and start adding in the other parts that you have for your project. Again, you can use the view cube over here to kind of pan around and see what you need to. And you'll take all 5 of your parts, assemble them together, and you'll have your finished assembly file.